डेवलपिंग सिचुएशन पे बात करते हैं. डॉक्टर मुस्तफ़ा कनर हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं, एक्सपर्ट हैं इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस के. थैंक यू वेरी मच डॉक्टर मुस्तफ़ा फॉर जॉइनिंग मी इन द प्रोग्राम. इट्स अ प्लेजर हैविंग यू इन द शो. डॉक्टर मुस्तफ़ा, हाउ डू यू सी द सिचुएशन between Iran and USA, considering what happened last year and also considering that Iran would still have that memory in mind the last time they were attacked while having dialogues with USA?
First of all, thank you for having me on your show. The situation on the ground is really tense for the last couple of weeks, actually. As you know, Iran has been through, protests, economic collapse, social unrest, and threats coming from the United States, where, Iran was really under heavy pressure and trying to solve a couple of, really significant problems simultaneously. And also, the sanctions crippled Iranian economy so bad in the last couple of years. There had been room for diplomacy and talks. Still, the sides were, posing a really strong, posture against each other, but at the same time, they really needed to talk to each other. So it was clear 2 days ago that the talks would take place in Oman, and Oman is, recognized and known to be traditionally a mediator between Iran and the Western world, and especially Iran and the United States. So, as we've heard from the ground, 3 rounds of talks conducted in Oman, and it was not a bad start at all. Talks mostly focused on the nuclear issue, and other topics were left out of the discussions, and it seems that in the coming days the talks will resume, and the atmosphere still tense right now. There is still possibility of military confrontation.
Right. Right, but at the same time, there are talks that both the sides wouldn't want to discuss, or one side would want to discuss, and the other side would certainly want to admit it out. Ballistic missiles being one of them, of course. Considering that last year, when Israel attacked Iran, ballistic missiles were the most potent form of defense and offense against Israel. And US wants to discuss that, but certainly Iran does not want to discuss that at all. And then what would be the uses of the enriched uranium? USA has its own propositions, and Iran has its own certainties that it wants to continue with. So is there a way that USA and Iran could come to a middle ground? Or would one have to bend for the other one to, appease them?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. As you know, these talks, these negotiations would be meaningless if parties are not willing to concede on specific, issues. From the very beginning, we've heard that Donald Trump administration and what Donald Trump administration is doing is a gunboat diplomacy, like this major military buildup in the Gulf, military threats on and on again. Every day, Donald Trump is threatening to, intervene militarily. So this is gunboat diplomacy. That's what Donald Trump has been doing, not just in the case of Iran, but we can remember other cases as well, like Venezuela, Cuba, Greenland. These other issues, the Trump administration followed the same logic, the same approach. And however, there still need to be some, concessions. The parties should, concede on something. Otherwise, these talks would be meaningless. So, from Iranian side, I think they could concede on nuclear file. As you said, they are not willing to talk about ballistic missile technologies, ballistic missile capacity, because they deemed that as part of their national defense capabilities. So these topics are off the table for the Iranian part. And if the United States really wants to, close the nuclear file, if they really wants to be sure that Iranians they don't have nuclear capacity to,
Right.
build a nuclear bomb, they should concede on, they should, accept that other topics are going to be, out of the discussions, like ballistic missile or, human rights issues, regional activities to some extent.
I mean, when we're talking about regional activities, a lot of regional countries have played a very pivotal role in stopping the attacks from USA's side towards Iran's side. Saudi has played an important role. UAE has played an important role. Pakistan has certainly played a very important role behind the scenes as well. And so has Qatar, Oman, Turkey. So many countries have played a very important role in stopping what was inevitably going to happen, an attack on Iran. What more can you see these countries doing, considering that there is a rotten egg in the region? A country that would love to go to war with Iran, Israel, and has already forced USA once into a short battle with Iran or an attack on Iran. What more do you think these countries can do, the regional countries in the neighborhood?
I think their role, has been very decisive in determining the overall, picture, because the United States was really, intended to attack Iran. However, regional players, of course, we can divide into two categories, these regional players. The one category that you just mentioned, Gulf countries and also Turkey, they stepped in towards de-escalate the situation. However, the Israeli part, just the opposite, they stepped in and they have been, trying to do the towards the escalation part. So they want a U.S.-Iran war in the region, the Israeli part. However, the other part, Gulf countries and Turkey, since they would be affected heavily and badly from that possible regional war scenario, it would be a nightmare scenario for particular actors in the region. So they stepped in, they volunteered to mediate the situation, mediate between the United States and Iran. And actually, I believe that they tried to do that, and I think they have been very successful in preventing this, possible war between the two sides, because they would be affected severely
Well, that
from
makes
that
sense.
scenario. Because any major war between the U.S. and Iran would, inflict great instability in
Absolutely.
the
It'll have a
region.
spillover effect on the region, on Pakistan, on Gulf regions, Gulf countries, and Turkey as well, and other countries overall. And it'll have a ripple effect for the entire world. Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa Kaner, for joining me in my program.